Sheffield United make the short trip to Pride Park Stadium as they look set to face Derby County in round 30 of the EFL Championship. It's a massive game for Derby County manager Paul Warne as he looks set to stop a run of 7 straight defeats across all competitions. Derby County have won just 4 games in their last 25 and Sheffield United will be looking to make that 26. Will they be able to? Who knows? There's a big injury list for both sides, as well as a key suspension to Sheffield United. There's some big players going to be missing, as well as an introduction to a new player for Derby County. Will Eiran Cashin still be at Derby County? Will he be available to play with the deadline coming up on the 3rd of February? Who is going to be left at Derby County to take a proper stand after this Sheffield United game? We're going to make some talk of that later on, but let's get into the injury list for both sides. Obviously, Derby County suffering hugely with injuries over the course of this season. A major one to David Ozo and then Ryan Niambi. Both of those two have returned now, but they now see an injury list containing Corey Blackett-Taylor, Curtis Nelson, Dejon Brown, Kane Wilson and Nat Phillips. Sheffield United, on the other hand, they're missing Gustavo Hamer, Harry Suter, Jamie Shackleton. Big man Kiefer Moore will be missing this one as well. Ollie Arblaster and Tom Davis also look set to miss out. Now, obviously, Sheffield United had that 2-point deduction at the start of the season, but it hasn't cost them at all, really. They're currently sitting second in the division with 58 points from 29. Obviously, with the extra 2 points, they would be sitting level with Leeds United on 60 points in 29 games. But they're not doing too badly. They're in a really, really good position. And Chris Wilder has just signed a contract extension to keep him at the club until, I believe, 2028. Now, if we look at the form over the course of the last 5 matches, Sheffield United find themselves 9th in the division with 9 points from 5 games. And we go all the way down to the bottom to see Derby County with 5 losses in 5 games, just 3 goals scored. It's not looking great for the Rams. And if we look at where they sit in the division right now, they currently sit at 22nd on 27 points after 29 games. They're averaging 0.8 points a game over the course of the last 20 games, and that's obviously really disappointing for any Derby County fan to hear or to see, because we started so well. I think we picked up 12 points in the first 7 or 8 games, and we did really, really well to get off to that sort of start. And then since then, we've played, 21 games and picked up just 15 points, which ultimately isn't good enough. Now, if we go and look at the recent form of the two sides, obviously, Derby County, as mentioned, are on the course of 7 straight defeats. Obviously, you will see the Leyton Orient one down as a draw, but obviously that ended up being a penalty loss in the FA Cup, which stopped a tie being set up with Manchester City. Defeats to Cardiff City, Sunderland, Watford and Bristol City all came in the league. We then go and look over at Sheffield United, who have picked up 3 wins in their last 5. Beating Watford, Norwich City and Swansea, but facing defeats to Hull City and Cardiff City, 2 of Derby County's relegation rivals at the moment. And it's a big, big situation that Derby County find themselves in, because Sheffield United are a very good team, and after Sheffield United, I believe we face Norwich, and there's a real chance that Derby County could go 10 losses in a row across all competitions, and obviously nobody wants to really see that. And there's a big conversation around Paul Warne's future at the moment, one of which I've gone into a fair few times. Now, if we go back to look at the head-to-heads of these two sides, Sheffield United more often than not come out on top with 8 wins in 13 games. There's 1 draw in there as well and 4 wins for Derby County. One of those most recent wins for Derby County came in on the 15th of January in 2022 when Tom Lawrence absolutely ripped it up versus Sheffield United. I'll put a clip of the goal on screen because what an unbelievable finish both of the 2 goals were. The work from Festi Eboseli for the second, the brilliant play from Tom Lawrence for the first. It was an unbelievable performance on a night when Derby County really could have fell to the sword of Sheffield United, who were sort of battling in those playoff positions, but Tom Lawrence came up with a masterclass. A player who is available to move back to the Championship and someone I've spoke about over the course of the last few days. Now, Sheffield United have spent some big money in this January transfer window, most notably on the likes of Tom Cannon. You've got Ben Brereton's Diaz coming in on loan. You've obviously got Hamza Choudary coming in on loan as well. And 3 really, really good players for this division, especially Ben Brereton Diaz. We saw the performances he's put in recent years for the likes of Blackburn and teams like that, and it is time for him now to really kick on again, because he sort of fell off a little bit at Southampton. And they've signed Tom Cameron, I believe it's for around £10 million, and it's one of those for me where it could turn out to be an amazing deal for Sheffield United long term, but ultimately I think they're just missing a little bit from what he can actually do. I don't really see him as much of a link-up striker, but he is a very good finisher, and if they can create the chances, he will put them away. Now, there's some other big players in this team who Derby County fans will want to know about. The likes of Harrison Burrows played up against him at Peterborough last year. Alfie Gilchrist from obviously Chelsea. You've obviously then got the likes of Callum O'Hare. You've got Vinicius de Souza Costa, brilliant player. Obviously, luckily Gustavo Hamer, is missing out, and obviously so is Keith Moore, a really good striker. But there's some incredible talent in this Sheffield United side. And if we then go on to look at the Derby County squad, which looks a little bit bare bones when you look at the injuries and things like that. Obviously, the big talking point is Eiran Cashin. Obviously, he looks set to be moving to Brighton. No deal has been completed as of the time of recording, which is the 29th at 8 p.m. Eiran Cashin is still at Derby County. No deal has been signed, sealed and agreed, but Derby County have brought in Matt Clarke with the intention to replace Eiran Cashin. Now, if Cashin goes, I believe we'll bring in another centre-back because we're going to need one with Nat Phillips out, Curtis Nelson out, Jake Rooney not quite ready yet. You then obviously go to look into that midfield area, and we've spoke about Joe Ward time and time again this transfer window about potential moves, and obviously the Mansfield one seems pretty much done deal. And then obviously Derby picked up those injuries to Kane Wilson, Ryan Niambi wasn't quite back fit, and Curtis Nelson then picked up his injury as well. So is Joe Ward even going to move out this window? I don't think so now. So there's obviously going to be some movement in that midfield department because Derby County needs some extra players. Obviously, in the previous game, Lars Jørgen Salverson picked up his first goal of the season for Derby County on his first start. Really good header, and something which Derby County have needed time and time again across this season, because Salverson is exactly what Derby County should have bought in the summer. We bought in Jerry Yates, a 5'9" striker, to play target man football and crosses, and ultimately, this is what my major problem is with Paul Warne. We've signed players who don't fit the system, who don't fit what he's trying to do, and then he's trying to blame everything on injuries. But ultimately, if he'd have been able to adapt, bringing in Salverson now would give us a plan B. We didn't. We're just sticking with plan A, but bringing in a player that more suits plan A, which obviously is the right thing to do, but you could have quite easily kept with a plan A with Jerry Yates, had Salverson as a plan B, give teams two different options to think about depending on who's playing. Like, you could even have a situation where, obviously, like we did at the weekend, play a two up top with Yates and Salverson, have them working together, but you can also have those conditions where they play separately, and you can see two different types of play. Jerry Yates dropping in, picking up the ball, running in behind. Salverson winning the flick-ons, winning the headers, getting the ball crossed into the box. And these are sort of the things which Derby County don't seem to do with Paul Warne at the helm. Now, we've spoke about Paul Warne quite a lot, and obviously it's been at Derby County for a long time now. 131 matches, 60 wins, 27 draws and 47 defeats, with most of them defeats coming in the Championship. Now, there's got to be some talk around Dan Barlaser of Middlesbrough, a player who Derby County have rumoured to be close to signing. I believe the fee is reported to be around £750,000, and that could be a really good deal for Derby County, and it could be a fairly decent signing in a sense of what we have in midfield. Obviously, for me, I think I said it in the video about Barlaser, that if we can have another fit Championship ready player, that automatically improves the squad, because Ben Osborne's not always fit, Ozo hasn't been fit for a while, Tomo's hit and miss with fitness. So if the player's fit, it's unbelievable for Derby County. You then obviously go on to talk about another player who's linked, who I spoke about earlier today, in Bobby Clarke. Could be an amazing deal for Derby County, bringing in a player like Bobby Clarke. I might actually post that video after this one, so let me know. Well, yeah, whatever. But it's one of those for me. If you bring in a Bobby Clarke, bring in a Dan Barlaser, add two sort of options. Barlaser is more of like your dictator, your sitter, whereas he's not necessarily a tackler per se, but he sort of can sit in and dictate the play. Whereas with Bobby Clarke, you get that little bit more further forward. Probably gives Kenza Holdmine a little bit more support in that position as well. So it's one of those for me. I personally think Derby County need another centre-half, because I do believe Cashin will be gone by the time we face Sheffield United on Saturday, or he won't be playing because of how close the deal is. We then obviously go on to the midfield. I believe we need at least one, maybe two if we can. I think we need a winger as well. And obviously, depending on the severity of Dejon Brown's injury, could probably do with another striker as well. So Obviously, it's a really difficult one. It's really hard to sort of put together a team prediction as well, because we obviously don't know if Cashin's going to be available. We don't know the fitness of the likes of Corey Blackett-Taylor or Kane Wilson or Nat Phillips. So as I'm recording this, it's quite difficult to really put together a team prediction. So let me know yours down in the comments. Let me know your score predictions as well. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. And I'll catch you in my next video about Bobby Clarke later on today.